Salt, Torn, or QNT, which is best? Golish Groom requested Salt, which I will cover. I'm counting on you to become a member. For less than the cost of 2 buy and sell trades, you can get info on coins you may not have seen and can easily make your membership fee back within 1 trade. Recommended, but members benefit from the coins ready to take off. 50% of everything I make goes to save animals' lives. So like, subscribe, donate, become a member if you'd like. And live feed is either tomorrow or Wednesday, and we can cover many other altcoins not covered in my videos. But let's get into it. So Salt, just looking at it, it doesn't look the best. The reason I say that is because we haven't hit real all-time highs or got near them besides this point when it first came out. You're looking at 0.66 cents, but it started up here around 88. It did have that nice push, but it had a continuation downward and never really made it back up towards 66 cents. And you say, what is the reasoning for that? It's more than likely that the miners came out back here in 2021. And I remember thinking about buying a Salt miner, but never did because I spent too much in Bitcoin miners and all kinds of GPUs and stuff. But we had the push up, and all those people who are mining it, for a little bit of cost of electricity, they were making ridiculous amounts of money, like $125 a day in Salt when it was up around the 64, 65 cents. Even around the 32 cents, they were profiting heavily. And so with that, those miners were selling all their stock because why not? You're making a ridiculous amount of money. You need to pay off the miner, so you're going to sell your coins to make your money back that you invested to make the miner. But what we would be looking at essentially is you would be looking for a downward trend line. And really there's not much to go off of. I mean, you could consider this like a downward trend, but more or less you're looking at something like this for the downward trend line. Let's make it a little thinner so we can see. And it is about to cross that downward trend line. But if we draw another line here, more or less, looks very similar to XCN, no? But the main concern is the fact that we have not hit this low ever. At least according to this chart, we've never been this low in price. So it hasn't pushed up exponentially, but it has dropped exponentially. Even though the 200 EMA is right here and there's that downward trend line, you could just see this thing consolidate around the 0.006 for quite a while, if not years, or eventually just die out. There is utility behind it. I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of detail on it, but essentially what we typically like to see is when it crosses the downward trend line and the 200 EMA, that's where we would look for our entry. Because we could say back here we had not really a downward trend line. I guess you could draw one from this point down, and then once we crossed that trend line, we were still well underneath the 200 EMA, tapped it, and then eventually broke out to 17 cents from roughly 3 cents. Pretty good risk to reward ratio. And the fact that we are so cheap right now, if it does push up, you'd expect the minimum high point being around 308%. Pretty massive ROI and can happen very quickly, but more than likely would get some resistance and rejection after we get that 300%. RSI looks healthy. Essentially, if you haven't entered Salt, it's not a bad idea to stack a little bag, but I don't have a huge amount of faith in how high this can go. But altcoin season does prove people wrong time and time again. So we're going to do this. We're going to go ahead and put the resistance level around 2 cents, 2.5 cents. And then we're going to do another resistance level, more or less, let's see here, around 4 cents. So say it does manage to make it to 4 cents. I could be wrong. It could just fly beyond that. That's around 500% or 5x. Say it goes to the previous high, which is roughly in this area. That's almost 2,000%. That's almost what XCN had for its major push up. And that is possible. So I'm not saying Salt's a bad idea, but it does have a lot of resistance on the way up. And we've seen last time it tried to break a resistance level from way back here. in August of 2021. It held support off of that. We see that. It held support, shot way up, had consolidation, but eventually broke it. So this is probably our strongest resistance right here for salt. I wouldn't expect, 18 cents from 0.006. Anything is possible in crypto. I'm not saying don't buy it, but I would wait to see if it crosses over that 200 EMA. Maybe have a buy stop in above that 200 EMA, because you could be buying this and it could just be trickling sideways for infinity, and never being able to get your money out. But it's good to diversify. Let's compare that. It does have the possibility to do that 2,000% pump like we've seen with XCN. And that's 2,640 or roughly 2,400, 24x from where we are currently at. That is a possibility, but it happens very quickly if it were to happen. Last time we were up here around 0.03 and got that push up to 17. Now we're at 0.006, so I'd imagine we'd get some strong resistance at that 4.5 cent mark. Moving on to QNT. QNT is looking very healthy. It's building higher lows. It's got that triple bottom layout like we see with these three lines here, these teal lines, and we are building higher lows. We are testing the 200 EMA. It's outside of a channel. RSI is building upward momentum, higher lows as here as well. And we could see this consolidate and then eventually push to the upside, breaking to the overbought area, which could easily push it up back to 124. If it pushes up quickly, you're going to see a pretty quick sell-off, potentially pulling all the way back to around 100, and then the buying opportunities will begin again. But keep that in mind. This green box is more or less your range up. We do have a little resistance here at 100, but if that gets broken, we would expect to push at least to 120, 124 range. QNT has an amazing utility. I believe it can hit 1,500 this altcoin season, and we are currently only at $80. So, Aaron, I know you've been trapped in this for a while, but you've been holding on for a long time. You're just waiting to cash out, and that's what this building up period is building up to, is being able to get the consolidation, the jet fuel, to be able to get this thing to take off to new levels. And lastly, one of my favorites is Tornado Cash. Tornado Cash has been one of the healthiest coins on the market. A lot of people don't want to trade it because it's on MEXC and they think there's KYC and stuff. You don't have to do KYC on MEXC, but I do always recommend using a VPN and then clicking the reference link below in the description of the video, signing up for MEXC, and then using that reference link, you get 20 USDT for free, which you can use to buy Tornado Cash. And Tornado Cash has an all-time high of $459. Obviously, some resistance here around 285 to 224, but currently $11. If you guys don't take this opportunity, I can only explain it to you so many times before you guys just stop paying attention and don't see the amazing opportunity with Tornado Cash. It's consolidating, even though it is right here with the 200 EMA. It's got these major bull movements that's testing the downward trend line, and when this line is broken, we are just waiting for this thing to double, triple, quadruple your money. And it's just essentially a patient waiting game. This has been the healthiest coin. This has been the most in profit through this entire year compared to some of the other coins. And it's just very healthy. So if you haven't entered, definitely check out Tornado Cash. Check out the MEXC reference link. And good luck. Have fun with it. I will see you guys on the next one.